Alan and Erskine, I'd like to thank you for your efforts. I'd also like to recognize Joelle Cannon on my staff, who's spent a lot of sleepless nights working with your staff, who've spent a lot of sleepless nights trying to develop a product. You know, as a physician, I'm trained to find the real problem. What's the real problem? Not the symptoms, but what are the symptoms and signs lead me to is what is the real disease. And the real disease is we've abandoned the concepts of our founders. We've created reliance instead of depending on self-reliance. We've created government programs that are unaffordable. We've abandoned limited government. We've abandoned the enumerated powers. And now we're in trouble. And nobody's looking at what the real problem is. And the real problem is us. Alexander Tyler said all republics fail. The average age of the world's republics is 200 years. And they all fail because eventually the populace learns that they can vote them something from the public treasury. And they all fail over fiscal issues. They're not conquered from without before they rot from within. And we're rotting. We're rotting as we sit here and speak today. In 2004, I had the privilege of reading a book by Peter Peterson. I want to give him credit. He talked about where we are today long before anybody was talking about it. He wrote the book in 2002. It's called Running on Empty. And it wasn't a partisan book, but it raised the level of awareness of several of us to what was happening. And if you don't think we're in trouble, think about the following numbers. Next year, $36 trillion has to be funded in the world. There's $23 trillion available to fund it. That's what the borrowing's going to be for governments all across this world. What do you think is going to happen to interest rates? What's going to happen to the cost of not living within your economic means? It's going to be disastrous for us. And the threat isn't coming in 4 or 5 years. It's coming in 1 or 2. We have a Fed that's monetizing our debt, and all our trading partners are reacting to it negatively in the hopes that we can stimulate our economy, when the real problem is we have way too much government and not enough of the thing that made America great, which is independence, personal responsibility, and self-reliance. And we've created dependency. And one great example is 1 in 19 Americans today get SSDI or SSI. That's 1 in 19 Americans are disabled, and when the law says you're only disabled if there's no job in the economy you can perform, and we don't address that issue in this plan, it's good. The SSDI is going to be broken 8 years, 7 years. And we're adding more, and they're getting ready to add two new categories to disability in the next month without congressional oversight or anything else. We are out of control as a government. We have abandoned the principles that made America exceptional, which wasn't the government. It was the people.
Last name is pronounced Coburn.
It was us relying on ourselves, not saying I can take a pass and depend on the government. And that says nothing about not wanting to make sure things are there for those who truly need our help. A compassionate response to those that cannot fix their situation any other way. We ought to be there to help them. But that's not what we've created in our country. And there are a lot of things that I think have been accomplished through this commission. There's a lot of knowledge been gained by a lot of people. We've totally disregarded the long-term problems that we have with health care. I agree with Paul and Jeb. Paul's roadmap is a way to solve that problem. Nobody has come forward with another solution, because nobody has the courage to come forward and say we can't have what we think we have today and still have a future. And Paul has had the courage, and those that have supported what he's done, to come say, if in fact we want to solve the problems, everybody has to sacrifice, which means you cannot be comfortable with the status quo. The real problems for our nation are going to come forward in 2 years. We have a Treasury Department that's still borrowing short-term money with a false idea that they're going to save interest costs rather than buying us some time by extending our debt terms. Because they're sacrificing the good for the short term, what looks good in the short term, for the very real problems for the long term. So we have the administration doing the same thing the politicians do. Don't do the tough, right, hard thing. Do what looks good. This plan is a plan. The people have worked on it, have struggled to try to build a consensus. I have heartaches with tons of it. But I know we have to go forward. This isn't the first. If we pass this plan by the Congress, 2 years from now, we're going to be coming back and making it more difficult. This is just the down payment on what are some very real, difficult sacrifices that everybody in this country is going to have to make. And if you really think about what built our country and what's the heritage of our country, it is sacrifice. What Jeb talked about, creating the real freedom, the real opportunity as it goes forward. It's not about owning a house. It's about having the potential to own a house. And so my questions really come down is, will we come together and put something out, even though probably 50% of it I'm not happy with, as a down payment to make a statement that says this problem is so real, Tom Coburn can't have what he wants. And I can't. And I'm going to have to sacrifice, and my family's going to sacrifice. But I want to make sure my grandchildren have some of the same opportunities and freedom that I've experienced. The potential for us to re-embrace the real character and success of America only will come if we embrace the principles that our founders embraced when they started this. When Benjamin Franklin was asked, you've all heard this, what did you do? He said, I gave you a republic if you can keep it. Well, I think we ought to be cheating history. History says we're not going to make it. And the way we cheat history is for all of us to give up something. Everybody at this table give up something. And then say the way forward for America is everybody to start sacrificing so we create a future that is honoring the tremendous sacrifice that came before us.
And I share the view you've given me. I didn't know who you were. All I know is that you are a man of integrity and honesty and directness, and you're real.
All I can say is I hope everybody sees that, because I couldn't have more respect than I do for you. Thank you for the guidance and the wisdom you've given me. Senator Crapo.
Thank you very much. And am I the